Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it's time for the Q&A, so let's go ahead and get this started. All right, first question, and guys, don't ask questions this long. I grabbed this one because it was a good one, but normally I'm going to look these over and not bother because I've got to be able to fit it on my screen. All right, hey Jason, I love your vids. I do enjoy strength training, but in GL to you, the main drive for me to lift is to look attractive. My waist is already naturally wide. I've been doing pendlay rows, overhead press, and squats at 5x5, which I feel puts a lot of pressure on the core, and this worries me as I don't want it to get even an inch bigger. I do no direct ab or oblique work. Would you suggest doing the same exercises but with lighter weight to say 8 to 12 rep range, or changing them completely to something else? Leg press machine, seated overhead press, etc. I know you hate this shit, but I'm a young man, still out looking for girls, a girlfriend, and I'm often complimented on my hot physique, so I feel it's important to them and put in extra work into it. Would a belt prevent my core from being worked on these lifts? Thank you so much, man. All right, this is a completely baseless concern. I don't think you understand how hard it is to add an inch of muscle to your waistline. You literally do not understand how hard it is. Number two, even if you were able to add that inch, the amount of muscle you're going to gain on your back and chest and everything is going to offset your ratios. All right, you need to understand that fact. This is a baseless concern unless you start using drugs. A big chunk of the reason you see some bodybuilders who start to get the big blocky waist is the drugs causing large amounts of visceral fat accumulation. Here's what I would say. The best way to keep your waistline smaller is to keep your visceral fat low. Meaning, for example, look at someone like me who, even when they've gained fat, look at my DEXA scans. I have excessively low visceral fat. Why? Because even when I bulk up and get quote unquote fat, I do it off completely clean diet. I don't eat junk food. I don't actually eat garbage. And I know that would shock a lot of people. Like, how do you get up to that body weight before without eating junk food? Because I have a high appetite. But it's noticeable. My DEXA scans and my visceral fat confirm that. Right? They confirm that. So I would say to you, eat a really clean diet to keep your visceral fat low. Keep your training volumes high. Keep your visceral fat low. It's like Dr. Mike had said when he was discussing the above the knee rack pulls, that the ironic part is that he even pointed out heavy squats and deadlifts, most people are never going to get strong enough at them, including bodybuilders, to where they're going to add large amounts of muscle to their waistline, right? They're not. But the above the knee rack pull might be the exception to the rule. It is probably the one exercise he could think of that might do it. So don't do silly stuff like that, right? Don't load your core with that extreme. But doing 5 sets of 5 with 400 pounds on a barbell squat, it's not going to add big old slabs of muscle to your waistline. It's not. And you shouldn't be afraid of doing direct ab work. Now, what I will say, if you're concerned about the obliques, then maybe don't do direct oblique work, and that's fine. Don't be afraid of direct ab work. Don't be afraid of lifting heavy. You're going to gain way more inches to your torso and everything else than you would possibly gain on your waist, because you're not going to gain an inch on your waist, right? If you do, it's fat, not muscle. So keep your visceral fat really low, which is what keeps that from all pushing out more. Keep your body fat low, and don't do really silly things like above the knee rack pulls. You'll be fine. This is a non-issue. It's generally drug abuse and excessive amounts of weight. Like, you start deadlifting 800-900 pounds, this could become a problem. It's not going to become a problem with a 500-pound deadlift. You're not going to see significant hypertrophy in those areas. It's visible or measurable. All right, don't worry about this nonsense. All right, next question. Should I be trying to pull apart or break the bar with my grip on barbell rows? Is there any benefit to doing so? I don't understand what you mean by bend the bar, because you really can't, but should you be gripping the bar? Right? Should you be trying to grip the bar as hard as you possibly can? Yes. And that's true on every exercise. The harder you grip on any exercise, usually the stronger you are and the better muscle fiber recruitment you get. And actually, they're the same thing. How do you produce more force? Well, you recruit more muscle fibers, right? That's how you increase force. That's how you increase growth stimulation. So the harder you can grip the bar, the better, right? That thing you're thinking of with the bending has to do with benching, but not on rows. But should you be squeezing it? Like, literally be trying to choke that bar to death. Like, squeeze it until your knuckles are turning white grip? Yes, you want a bone-crushing grip on all your exercises. That's one of the problems I point out with guys who want to do straps and say stupid shit like, oh, well, I don't want my back to get neglected from grip work. No, because with the straps, you're not going to grip the bar as hard. And if you're not gripping the bar as hard, you're not going to get as much muscle fiber recruitment. So that's not even beneficial, right? It's silliness. Squeeze the crap out of that bar. Squeeze the crap out of the bar. Every single time. Best thing you could possibly do. All right, next question. Thinking about doing power cleans every day. Thoughts? Well, my question would become, why specifically do you want to do that? And if you've got a good reason, like you say, hey, I want to get really, really good at power cleans, then I would say, well, that's not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. Why? Because the power clean is a relatively technical lift. It's more technical than most exercises. It has a larger learning component. It has a larger motor pattern component than, say, a deadlift, right? Considerably more. And so if you do it very, very frequently, what are you going to find? Well, you're going to find that you're going to, in general, get better at it. It's going to allow you more total training volume on it every week. You're going to be fresh at it. You're going to be in your groove and honed to doing the exercise. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And a lot of people who do a lot of the Olympic lifts do them at very, very high frequencies. Right? They do them at high frequencies. Now, is that going to improve your gains per se? No, not necessarily. People say, well, what do you mean? If you get better at the technique, won't that make you lift more weight? Yeah, you're lifting more weight because you are using better technique. But lifting more weight through technique is not the same as more stress. Sometimes using bad stress actually has a larger hypertrophic effect, like bad technique on a lift, because you have to muscle through it harder. Creates more fatigue in certain muscles, and those muscles are going to grow more. So that's the ironic thing, is that a lift like a power clean is one of those lifts where getting really good at it could reduce the amount of hypertrophy you get from it. Not saying you're not going to get hypertrophy, but because you're more efficient at it, you move the bigger weight with less work by the muscles, which in that case, the goal is to just get good at it. So I guess that's what it comes down to. Are you doing it as a supplemental lift that you want to just improve explosiveness and as an exercise, as a supplemental exercise? Then I would say, no, there's no real need to do what you're doing. If you're doing it because you just decide, for whatever reason, I don't care what your reason is, strength has its own merit no matter what. You want to get good at a lift, any big lift, I'm going to support that. Then yeah, it's fine, it's good. It would be helpful towards getting really, really good at power cleans, because you're practicing a highly technical movement. Like with anything else, if you have something that's skill-based and you want to get good at it, you should do it really often. Just understand it's not going to be the same as getting a training effect in the muscles. All right, next question. Hey, Coach, I was wondering if I could get your take on what kind of numbers I should be at, or at least strive for, when it comes to wanting to compete in a powerlifting meet. I haven't hit your strength standards yet on all the big lifts you recommend, but once I do, you think it would be all right for me to enter into a powerlifting meet, or should I try to get all my lifts even stronger than your strength standards? No, I mean, once you reach my strength standards, feel free to step on the platform, right? Because those aren't necessarily true powerlifter standards, but I think people who watch the internet too much, they misjudge how strong most powerlifters are, right? Because you're used to seeing the best of the best. You're used to seeing the best of the best. You assume that anyone who's not in the top 1% isn't going to crush meets. The reality, I crushed meets. I'm probably stronger on some lifts now than I was even when I was competing on camera before, right? A few years back in the UK. My placings were phenomenal. I took gold at my regionals. My qualifier, which I almost bombed out of, by the way, I only went 4 out of 9 due to my messed up water cut. I went 4 out of 9. I took a gold, and on Wilk's score, I took second out of 100 lifters. Put that in perspective. There were people calling my performance out as being horrific, all these people. Although it was all higher than my strength standards, by the way. Every lift that I hit in comp was higher than that strength standard I gave you guys, right? People are like, oh, that's terrible, that's horrific. I was second place out of 100 lifters on Wilkes at regionals. Gold in my class. I got invited to Euros and Nationals based on that meet. Then I did more at Nationals, right? I beat every single lift, obviously. that I did at regionals. On the internet, people were calling me weak. I qualified for Worlds. I got invited to WPC non-drug tested Worlds. How strong do you think you need to be to compete at the regional or state level? Now, if you're in the United States and you want to go to nationals, you damn well better be stronger than those strength standards. But what you might find for your class, my strength standards, depending on your age and weight, might actually be a state record, or depending on where you live. So put that in perspective when you're thinking about should you compete or not. The average competitive powerlifter is probably 30 or 40% weaker than most of you think they are because you watch too much YouTube. Like if you think everyone at a powerlifting meet, every healthy male in the open class is squatting 500 pounds, you're going to be shocked when you start going to real meets. You're going to be shocked at how many sub 500 pound squatters there are. Brett Contreras hit like a 380 squat at his first meet in the 242 class as the glute guy. All right, put that in perspective. He hit a 380 pound squat. He didn't even meet my strength standard. Be surprised. You'd be surprised what guys are actually lifting when you go to comp. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.